There are ships in Star Citizen to suit nearly every taste, from simple fighters to standard traders and everything in between. We have industrial haulers, stealth ships, scouts, exploration ships, and even capital class monsters. But among the extensive roster, some ships stand out, as well as not entirely necessary. In particular variants that add very little new to the table. And yes, there are quite a few of them. Let's start with one of the most obvious offenders, the Aurora Series. It includes few redundant variants that serve nearly identical roles with minor changes. We are talking about slight differences in maneuverability, speed, or even a single missile rack size increase, from size 2 to 3, while sharing the same weapons and cargo and hull durability. When differences are this minimal, it begs the question, why do these variants even exist? I am not saying that all the variants in the Aurora series are the same, but they're very close to each other. A more recent example is the Drake Cutter and the Cutter Rambler. These two ships are nearly identical. The Rambler was marketed as an exploration-focused version of the Cutter, thanks to its slightly larger fuel capacity. Otherwise, they share the same structure, cockpit and handling and maneuverability and pretty much everything. Yes, there are some slight differences, but for the most part they look pretty much the same. Even the Cutter Scout feels like a minor rehash. Honestly, the entire Cutter series could have been a single ship with modular functionality, allowing players to swap loadouts depending on the role. Cargo exploration or support. Instead, we got this sliced version of the same chassis with the very slightly different functionality. Perhaps what hurts the Cutter series most is how the developers introduced the Rambler, stating that it's the more advanced starter of the two, so either you can go with the older inferior, so to say, or with the newer, more advanced functional one. And that just isn't a good comment I would like to hear from the development side when creating very similar ships. Next up is a more controversial case, the Anvil Hornet F7 series and the F7 Mark II series. This one hurts a little, as the Mark II was supposed to be the new refined version of an already well-established medium fighter. The changes? The Mark I is a bit more durable, while the Mark II is a touch more agile. There are a few loadout and visual tweaks, but otherwise it's the same fighter. The only notable improvement is that the Mark II Super Hornet is different from the Mark I, which is actually the only thing that is special. It offers a co-pilot seat, and the co-pilot can control the top turret, making it feel a bit more distinct and useful. But let's be honest, did we really need two entries into the Hornet series, which is already really big? In fact, I would have preferred if they simply replaced the original Hornets with the updated Mark IIs, and while the Hornet family includes combat, stealth and exploration versions, which is actually even somewhat reasonable for this flexible ship line, the civilian variant feels a bit odd. It's a military class fighter, so seeing civilian version always felt out of place for me. I get the argument it's for the civilian defense force or civilian defense ship, but I'm still not a fan of that route. Now let's talk about the Mirai Guardian series, specifically the Guardian and the Guardian QI. These two are nearly clones. The only meaningful difference is that the QI has the quantum jammer, while the base Guardian is marginally more agile and faster. And I do mean marginally. We're talking about a difference of 2 to 5% stat-wise. Since both are heavy fighters with the high durability, you're not going to be dodging light fighters in any form or way, so the extra agility is almost irrelevant. If you already have the QI, why would you ever bother with the standard Guardian? To be fair, there's also the third Guardian, MX, which is a different beast with unique interior, weapons and stats. It's clearly a separate ship or separate type of this ship, but the other two are way too close. There are also some more blatant copy-pastes like the Saber and Saber Comet, or the Gladius-based models, the Pirate Gladius, the Gladius Valiant. These are literally one-for-one ships with different skins. Sometimes they do include specific loadouts to their specific name type, being different from the default standard variant, but the structure, the stats and functionality remain the same. I'm not sure if it's worse or better, but they do come with a default skin on them, so they do look separate from the other variants, for the most part. Of course, there is also an oddball exception, which seems to be the Pirate Gladius. Reportedly, it has slightly longer claim time and possibly a tiny weight difference, but these are minor and effectively irrelevant. If it wasn't obvious already, they are using some of these variants to make extra money, as they often do cost a bit more than the default variants, and yes, there are players who are okay with this. Instead, I think there should be some other way to make them more meaningful. So they could shine in a different light and not stay in the shadow of the same but slightly different ships. So in a way there are useful and redundant variants, which pretty much comes down to how much gameplay value they offer. When a ship within the same family provides identical role with minimal differentiation, they end up competing with themselves instead of enriching the game or competing with other ship lines. And that's a sad truth. Yes, they are different in some ways or forms, but more often than not, we can see that the more optimal variant is priced higher, and that's just painful and miserable. I'm sure there are more examples, but these are the first ones which come to my mind. Feel free to point out a few more in the comments below. But anyway, don't forget to like, subscribe, and thanks for watching!